Coach John Kentera stopping by for a Thursday visit. You can catch Coach talking baseball on 97.3 The Fan. Let's start with the Masters. You mind?
Oh, it'd be great.
Well, let's just get her out of the way. Who are you picking to win it all?
Well, I think I'll go with Tiger. Tiger had a pretty good first round, shooting a 70 today. Phil looked good today as well, but I think Tiger's going to win a major this year, and it may be this weekend.
If he wins this tournament, can we already say that'll be the sports story of? Is that a bigger sports story than the emission scandal?
I think people are waiting for Tiger to win a major. That scandal thing, that may go into 2020.
Yeah. All right. You spent, let's get a big, you spent a big chunk of your radio career over at what is now 1090.
Right.
And 1090. What was your initial reaction to the news yesterday?
I wasn't surprised. I mean, they had two other radio stations that they had, and they lost those a couple of months ago. The man that owned them took them back over, and I think it's very hard now in our industry, Paul, radio and TV. I think it's very hard to have a standalone radio station.
My question, and you know, I don't want to put you in an awkward spot because I know you're friends. I'm fans of all those folks. They have the strongest signal, the biggest ratings, and arguably the most talented talent. So if they go under, are we all susceptible to going under in both our industries?
Well, I think any business, I mean, you got to make smart decisions, and what's gone on over there since I left in October of 2015, I don't know. I'm not inside those four walls like I was for many years. You know, I was on the original lineup there, but, you know, it's a tough business. Radio in general is very, very tough now because the listeners want the information when they want it.
Darren Smith had a podcast yesterday, articulate as always. He had this to say. I want to get your reaction to this.
If it is it, I walk out of this with my head held very, very high, and I'm very proud, and I've got more out of this experience here at the Mighty 1090 than I ever could have imagined, and for that I just simply say thank you.
Darren also added this Vanilla Ice quote, which I think is great. Wherever I'll be tomorrow, that's where I'll be. Is there a chance they get off the canvas here?
I don't know, Paul. I mean, I think there are a lot of things going on right now. Again, I wasn't surprised that this happened, and again, I'm sure they're trying to, you know, rectify it. But I will tell you, from a guy that now is at a competing radio station, I like competition. I always thought it was good when I was over there, or when I was at 690 years ago, a legendary station. I thought it was always good when we had a competitor because I like to compete.
Speaking of competing, the Padres are doing just that. Your first place, San Diego Padres. How about them Padres?
Oh, they're playing great baseball, and right now they're a half game up on the Dodgers. They need to win tonight to push it to a full game, but they're doing a lot of things well. I mean, they're playing great defense. The young kid, Tatis, I think, is as good as been advertised. He's only going to get better, and I think, you know, they're 1 to 8 lineup, plus the bench strength. Andy's never had guys coming off the bench late in the ball game that can deliver, and I think the biggest question mark, and we knew it going in, let's face it, the starting pitch. And you got a lot of young kids in that starting rotation right now, and they've got to find a way to go deeper in a ball game.
Leads me to think that there's going to be maybe one more or two more acquisitions, or perhaps still up.
Well, you talk about competitive. Ron Fowler, Peter Seidler, A.J. Preller, those guys are ultra competitive. I'm sure they're weighing things day in and day out right now on where they can get some help for that mound.
Other end of the baseball spectrum, in sadder news, Chris Davis has run his hit streak up to 53 at-bats, taking out the walks. Will this guy ever get a hit again?
I hope so. I can't even imagine being in his spot. That's dating back to last season. That guy's got to be absolutely miserable, and people say, why doesn't he walk away? Well, he's owed millions and millions of dollars over the next 3 years, but it's still miserable when you can't get a hit.
It's hard to watch, but you can't turn away. It's like a train wreck. The big prep news, but there's been a rash of transfers all off season, but today 3 kids transferred to Lincoln from 3 different schools. Where is this coming from? Does this get all traced back to 7-on-7? Suddenly it's like the free agency in the NFL.
Well, you have 7-on-7, and that's just in football. We could talk about the other sports, the travel sports, where kids get to know one another. And I will just say this, the grass isn't always greener. You may go to a ball club that's loaded, and you may not get the opportunities you're going to think you're going to get that if you'd have stayed at your original school.
It's bad for high school football. I mean, don't you miss the days of when kids in the neighborhood would all gather together, and maybe it was once every Haley's Comet, but they would have that magical season. It would all be neighborhood kids. We don't have that anymore.
No, you don't. And, unfortunately, I've noticed something in high school that I don't like is a lot of times some of these powerhouse schools, they get these great players, and they go out there and they let them play. They throw them out there. There's not a lot of individual teaching going on. We could talk about some of the other sports, but they've got all this great talent. They throw them out there, they win a championship, therefore they think they're a great coach. That isn't necessarily the way it works. There's a lot of guys at smaller schools that aren't winning more than maybe 3 games in a football season, but they may be doing a better job than a team that's walking off with a CIF title if they're doing the right things that coaches need to do.
John, thanks for coming in tonight on the ASR. We have a full bevy of games, 7 in all. Make sure you tune in 10:45 for the All Sports Report. And not seen on that board, Maddie Sinclair is doing a story with the San Diego Seals. That will make the broadcast, good Lord willing. And, of course, another Padres win coming your way. We'll see you then.